Association of Southeast Asian Nations is a regional organization whose 10 members include Brunei, Cambodia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, and Indonesia. Indonesia is a country in Southeast Asia and Oceania between the Indian and Pacific Ocean. Consists of over 17,000 islands, including Sumatra, Sulawesi, Java, and part of Borneo and New Guinea, with about 217 million people. Indonesia is the world's fourth most populous country and the most populous Muslim majority country.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Muhammad SHAHKIREN bin Hassan. Now I want to explain about history of Indonesia. The history of Indonesia has been shaped by its geographic position, its natural resources, a series of human migration and contact, wars and conquest, as well as by trade, economy and politics. Indonesia is an archipelagic country of 17 to 18 islands, stretching along the equator in Southeast Asia. The country's strategic salient position fostered inter-island and international trade has seen fundamentally shaped Indonesian history. The area of Indonesia is populated by people of various migration, creating a diversity of culture, ethnicities and language. The archipelago's landform and climate significantly influence agriculture and trade, and the formation of state. The boundaries of the state of Indonesia match to 20th century border of the Dutch East Indies under pressure from radical and politics pemuda that called YAACOB group. Sukarno and Hatta proclaimed Indonesia independent on 17 August 1945, 2 days after the Japanese Emperor surrendered in the Pacific. The following day, the Central Indonesia National Committee declared Sukarno President and Hatta Vice President. Word of the proclamation spread by shortwave and flyers while the Indonesian wartime military, YAACOB and others relied in support of the new republic, often moving to take over government office from the Japanese. The Dutch, initially backed by the British, tried to re-establish their rule, and a bitter armed and diplomatic struggle ended in December 1949, when in the face of international pressure, the Dutch formally recognized Indonesia independence. Dutch effort to re-establish complete control met resistance. On 27 December 1949, after 4 years of sporadic warfare and fierce criticism of the Dutch by the UN, the Netherlands officially recognized Indonesian sovereignty under the federal structure of the United States of Indonesia. On 17 August 1950, exactly 5 years after the proclamation of the independence, the last of the federal states were dissolved and Sukarno proclaimed a single unitary republic of Indonesia. Indonesia is a country that has high economic potential that has begun to be noticed internationally. Indonesia, Southeast Asia's largest economy, has a number of characteristics that put the country in a great position to experience rapid economic development. In addition, in recent years, there has been strong support from the central government to curb Indonesian dependence on commodity export raw, while increasing the role of the manufacturing industry in the economy. Infrastructure development is also a key goal of the government and one that needs to cause a multiplier effect in the economy. The Indonesian government, under the leadership of Joko Widodo, who was sworn in as Indonesia's 7th president in October 2014, has implemented several structural reforms aimed at long-term economic growth by causing short-term pain. For example, most of the fuel subsidy has been successfully removed, a remarkable achievement because previously cutting fuel subsidies had always caused great anger in the community, was helped by low world crude oil price. In addition, the government places high priority on infrastructure development as evidenced by the government sharply increased infrastructure budget and investment, as evident by the deregulation program release and fiscal incentive offered to investors. Indonesia is a market economy where state-owned company and large private business group play an important role. There are hundreds of diversified private groups doing business in Indonesia, but they make up a small fraction of the total number of companies active in Indonesia. Together with SOEs, they dominate the domestic economy. It also means that wealth is concentrated at the top of society, and there is usually a close link between the corporate elite and the political elite in the country. Micro, small and medium enterprise in Indonesia, which is together account for 99% of the total number of companies active in Indonesia, are no less important. They account for about 60% of Indonesia's GDP and create jobs for nearly 108 million Indonesians. This means that micro, small and medium enterprise are the backbone of the Indonesia economy. The Indonesian currency is one of the weakest currencies in the world. Among the factors that make the rupiah weak is the politics of the state budget related to debt. The weakening of the rupiah will not only have an impact on the increase in price of imported commodities, but also on foreign debt. Because of foreign debt is determined its foreign currency, and some are not insured hedging as a result because the debt must be paid in US dollar. While the rupiah is certain to weaken, the amount of debt will automatically increase. In addition, the exit of most of the foreign portfolio investment from Indonesia which reduce the rupiah exchange rate, because in this process foreign investor exchange rupiah for major world currencies such as the US dollar to be circulated and invested in other countries. This means that there will be an increase in the supply of the rupiah currency. This event will be symmetrical with the composite stock price index, which will tend to decline in line with the tendency of the rupiah to decline.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad AKMAL bin Ahmad SAHIR. So, I will give explanation about the politics and social environment at Indonesia. As we know, Indonesia is a republic that adopt a presidential system, which is now led by the Joko Widodo as a president of Indonesia that play a role as the head of state and the head of government, the director of domestic governance, the policy making and foreign affairs. So it means that the president of people who responsibility and play a main role to make any decision about state affairs. The history of politics in Indonesia is very complex, and it consists of a lot of party politics such as Indonesian Democratic Party of Struggle, Great Indonesia Movement Party, National Awakening Party, and so on. The reason is the political system was constantly changing according to the circumstances and pattern of government at the time. However, they still retain the president as the head of government and also the ruler of the country. The General Election Commission, or well known as Komisi Pemilihan Umum, KPU, is the body that is responsible for running both parliamentary and presidential elections. Article 22E and 5 of the Constitution rules that the KPU is national, permanent and independent. Prior to the 2024 election, the KPU was made up of members who were also members of political parties. However, members of KPU must now be non-partisan.
I will continue to the cultural aspect. The culture of Indonesia has been shaped by long interaction between original indigenous customs and multiple foreign influence. There are 1,300 regional ethnic groups in Indonesia. Indonesia is home to hundreds of ethnic and linguistic groups. the largest of which being Javanese. Majority of Indonesia are descended from Austronesian people whose language have Proto-Austronesian roots. Based on ethnic classification, the largest ethnic group in Indonesia is the Javanese, who make up about 14% of the total population. Moreover, religion in Indonesia. The country with the world's largest Muslim population is in Indonesia. Indonesia is officially a republic with a compromise made between the idea of secular state and an Islamic state. Several different religions are practiced in the country, and their collective influence on the country's political, economic, and cultural life is significant. Multitude of religions including Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, and Islam. Indonesian law requires its citizens to have a KTP that identifies them with one of the six religions, but they are able to leave that section blank.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is FARISYA binti FARID, and I will continue to present the next content, which is about the aspect in domestic issues in Indonesia. There are three types of aspect in domestic issues, which are politic, economy, and social. Domestic issues are about an issue or an important subject that people are arguing about or discussing in a particular country. However, as for the first aspect in politics, there are several politics aspects in Indonesia. The first is related to the issue of the SAHIR conflict. SAHIR is an acronym for tribe, religion, race, and intergroup. SAHIR is a view or action that is based on sentimental thoughts about self-identity regarding descent, religion, nationality, and ethnicity and class. This issue has many types of cause, unrest, and division. For example, the conflict case of the Sampit tragedy, which took place in 2001. This conflict took place between the Dayak and Madura tribes, where it stemmed from the SAHIR problem. The Maduris failed to adapt to the Dayak, so there was discrimination between groups that erupted into conflict and eventually killed up to 500 people. Another issue is about the West Papua conflict. West Papua is the western part of the island of New Guinea, which became a province of Indonesia officially in 1969. Meanwhile, it is also neighboring the country of Papua New Guinea, which is the eastern part of the island of New Guinea. The region is full of conflict and unrest before and since it joined Indonesia. Among causes of the conflict is because most West Papuans want independence or establish their own new country and do not want to be part of Indonesia. Jakarta, which is getting thicker and denser with population, caused dissatisfaction towards West Papuans when Jakarta was accused of oppressing West Papuans who were mostly of Melanese descent. Among the conflict that existed in the post-independence era of Indonesia in West Papua is such as the transmigration program introduced by Suharto has led to influx of Indonesians from other regions to West Papua, and this led to the marginalization of West Papua. Furthermore, due to the separatist movement in West Papua being also active, the Indonesian authorities also allocate a high number of troops to the region. The Indonesian military has been linked to the scandal such oppression of killing West Papuan, and it has already mutual trust between West Papuan and the Indonesian central government. This chapter will examine the history and origin of the West Papuan conflict, the conflict that existed after West Papuan became part of Indonesia, and also the reaction of the international community to this conflict.
After that is social. There are about 583 traditional language and dialects spoken in Indonesia. They normally belong to the different ethnic groups of the population. Some of the distinctly different local language are Acehnese, Batak, Sundanese, Javanese, Sasak, The tomb of Timor Dayak, Tanasa, Toragenis, Makaris, Buginis, Halmahera, Amboinis, Tolaki, and several Indianese languages. Not even that, even more complex and colorful, these languages are also spoken in different dialects. For instance, by learning about the Indonesian ethnic, it will make other people from other countries can blend in better with the local and even surprise with some pleasant gestures. As any other place in the world, when visiting Indonesia, visitors should observe the local custom and practices which are held very dear by Indonesian people. Although handshakes are generally acceptable for both men and women, some Muslim women may acknowledge introduction to gentlemen by merely nodding and smiling. A handshake should only be initiated by ladies. There is no grasping in salam. In this form of greeting, the man offers both hands, lightly touches his friend's outstretched hand, and then brings his hand to his chest to mean I greet you from my heart. Moreover, the visitor should reciprocate the salam because it is considered polite to call before visiting a home. After that, they always remove shoes before entering someone's home and offer drinks to guests, it was common practice at there. The most interesting is they always remove shoes before entering places of worship such as mosques and temples. Their reason is some mosques provide robes and scarves for female visitors to cover their heads before entering the place of worship. According to the statistic, over 85% of Indonesian population is Muslim. Drinking is not common practice and hence toasting is not a common practice there. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
So apart from that, there are also domestic issues in Indonesia in terms of economy aspect. An example is the issue of poverty and unemployment among the people. Poverty is a state of a society that is unable to meet the necessities of life. The necessities of life such as food, clothing, shelter, education, and health. Unemployment is referring to the individual who are employable and actively seeking a job but are unable to find a job. This issue is no longer unfamiliar. Every country will definitely have the issue of poverty and unemployment. But this issue in Indonesia is different from other regional countries because the number of the people living on the poverty line is very large, which is 27.54 million people, and the numbers of employed has reached more than 8 million people by early 2021. What is the cause of this high poverty and employment rate? The obvious factor is due to the extreme population. When the population is very large, then is decline in the income of the community. Indonesia, it is very difficult to get a job. As a result, they lack all the purchasing power of basic necessities and the declining standard of living. As stated by the Ministry of National Development Planning (PPN), Suharto Monarfa, he said that there is no point in having high economic growth, but still many poor people are getting poorer. However, Indonesia will continue to work to reduce unemployment and poverty rate from time to time. Another economic issue in Indonesia is the issue of corruption. Just like poverty and unemployment, the word corruption is no longer unfamiliar. Most countries definitely have or experience corruption issues. Corruption is the abuse of power over an officer or employee for personal gain, family, and friend or group. Of late, the issue of corruption has been hotly debated in public, especially mass media, both locally and within the country. Many experts have expressed the view that there are pros and cons associated with this corruption. However, this corruption is detrimental to the country and can destroy the joy of the nation. It can be said to be the social epidemic that can destroy the country and be a major obstacle to the government journey and development. In the United States itself, which is so advanced, corrupt practices still exist. For example, Indonesia, the corruption issue became a hotly debated issue amid the COVID-19 pandemic crisis, especially after the arrest of Juliari Batubara as social minister by the Corruption Eradication Commission (KPK) in a social assistance case. This matter has attracted the attention of the President of Indonesia, Joko Widodo. In his speech, he reminded his cabinet rank to take seriously to the use of disaster budget, in particular fund for the COVID-19 pandemic. However, the presence of the social assistance case is not very empathetic in dealing with the COVID-19 cases in Indonesia. Millions of Indonesians are struggling to meet the demands of increasingly challenging life. Corruption in the midst of the crisis or disaster in Indonesia is also not the first time. Disaster fund cases have been implemented in some areas that have experienced natural disasters such as the Aceh tsunami or the Lombok earthquake. In the past 10 years, according to Indonesia Corruption Watch (ICW), there have been at least 87 cases in disaster fund controlled by the police, prosecutor or the KPK. This bad habit will continue as long as there is no longer strict control from the government. Therefore, in order to achieve the goal of national development fairly, this issue must be eliminated. So, domestic issues in Indonesia in terms of social aspect are also like the Sampang conflict issue. This issue related to the problem of change and the projection of the population according to religion. Before that, we would like to clarify Indonesia has the fourth largest population in the world. So the composition in Indonesia is very diverse with hundreds of different tribes, culture and religions. And estimate 88% of Indonesian population professes Islam, making it the country with the largest Muslim majority, and the rest are other religions. Returning to the issue of the Sampang conflict, it is about an inter-religious conflict that took place between the followers of Ahli Sunnah wal Jamaah and the followers of Shia Islam in 2004. Dispute of faith and understanding has devoured its victim. Two Shia were killed while 6 others were seriously injured. It affected on the burning of the house of the chairman of the Al-Bait Jamaat Association, which is also known as the Ijabi. 2 more Shia houses were set on fire and prayer hall were vandalized by 500 residents who claimed they were members of Ahli Sunnah wal Jamaah or referred to the Sunnis. Another reason is because every stream leader has this harmonious relationship. Tajul Muluk is the central figure in the spread of the Shia sect in Sampang. The people of Sampang were disappointed due of Tajul Muluk and his followers who spread Shia teaching in Sampang. The community considers Tajul Muluk to have a strange way of worship. Therefore, MUI Sampang has held a meeting attended by the representative of Sunni and Tajul Muluk group and their followers. In this meeting, Tajul Muluk was asked to approve an agreement so that the environment in Sampang become conducive again. In the agreement, Tajul Muluk and his followers were asked to stop spreading Shia in Sampang. However, the agreement still seems to be spread through the fanatical preachers and the loyal to the community there. Another domestic social issue in Indonesia is the issue of transboundary haze pollution. In the present era, environmental problems that occur in a particular country or region not only affect the country itself, but also involve other country or region. Most transboundary environmental problems stem from pollution problem. An example is the problem of the forest fire in Indonesia, where forest fire occur in Sumatra and Kalimantan. The following not only affect Indonesia as the source of the forest fire, but that can impact also be felt by the Malaysia and Singapore. Although this problem has happened many times, it still happens. One of the causes of transboundary haze pollution in Southeast Asia is deforestation as a result of the utilization of natural resources for political, economic, and social interests without concern for local indigenous wisdom. Furthermore, deforestation directly contributes to forest fire, which also widely claimed to be the largest contributor to haze smoke pollution in Southeast Asia. Meanwhile, fire in Indonesia are largely caused by the plantation industry to grow various tropical plants. However, many pit soil are left to dry for other planting. Dry pit soil are very exposed and very flammable. In fact, Indonesia rainforests have been recognized for their diversity of species of flora and fauna. Habitat destruction through forest fire can be threaten their survival and accelerate the extinction of flora and fauna. The most serious effects of the forest fire and haze pollution are related to the health of the population. Millions of people in Southeast Asia will be affected by the haze pollution, and indirectly they inhale haze smoke that contains couple of chemicals that can pose on the risk to the body. According to the United Nations, air pollution kills about 7 million people each year worldwide, 1 in every 8 deaths worldwide. In addition to the risk of the heart disease and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease (COPD), there is also the potential threat posed by the lung cancer. Therefore, ASEAN is committed to working together on this issue. So let's move on to the other content.